So good evening. So I don't like to make this webinar last more than 45 minutes. And basically what I try to do is divide it in between an explanation of the program and just allowing, opening up for questions that you might have. Um, people come with different understandings of what a spiritual direction program might do or what it entails. So I always like to leave a good amount of time for our questions, but I don't want to go over 45 minutes. And if we really see that we don't have questions, of course, I'll always cut things short. But let's get started. So good to have you here. My name is María Brackett. I'm the director of the Spiritual Direction Certificate at Divine Mercy University and a spiritual director myself. I've been a director of the program now for 5 years, began in 2020, and I've been a spiritual director for about 18. I worked in ministry full time. I studied theology. I studied education. Now I'm actually getting my master's in mental health, and just felt drawn to this. I'm working in ministry, kind of just fell into this niche of giving spiritual direction and accompany people in this way. And it's been a real joy for me. I'm a learner by nature, so always learning more. And I'm fascinated with the human person, just learning more about the gift of who each person is. So that's a little bit about me. I live right in here, Virginia, right next to the university. So the Spiritual Direction Certificate is a certificate, 2-year certificate created by the Divine Mercy University to train spiritual directors to be in a professional way, in a way that they form their heart to be more a heart like Jesus, so as to accompany people and help them to know the Lord. The university, as you may have seen or know, is dedicated to an understanding of the human person, right? Which is a holistic model. Sometimes it's called that, an integrated model, where we look at the whole person and all their different aspects from a faith perception, from a faith perspective, but also from a science perspective. The university is a graduate school for psychologists and counselors, and decided in 2016 to begin developing this course so as to help train spiritual directors with this vision of the whole person. And that vision of the whole person is taken from Catholic theology, the wisdom tradition of Catholic theology and Catholic philosophy, and also sound principles that go with Catholic theology and philosophy, and integrating them with the human sciences. So that's really what is at the center of the university, and the university continues to develop programs and degrees that allow people to get to understand the human person. It's all its richness within the Catholic Christian tradition, and marry that with science, with the best of science and research. So, people always ask me, what is it about the spiritual direction certificate that might be different than getting trained somewhere else? Well, I think that there's a certain taste that we give to spiritual direction training, because we really like you to learn, first of all, of course, and most of all, about the working of God's grace in a person. But we like for you to learn who that person is, and to understand yourself a little bit better and in your human functioning. We don't spend time going into a lot of psychological concepts. Of course, we're not training you as counselors or psychologists, nor even do we think that spiritual direction is a type of light therapy. It's really very different. Therapy is really geared at helping us in our human functioning, whereas spiritual direction is to help and encourage us to grow in our relationship with the Lord. So that gets us right into, what is spiritual direction? I think this is important to talk about when you're presenting a spiritual direction training program. Even though the Catholic tradition and the Christian tradition have a very clear understanding of it, there are very different interpretations out there. And so our definition of spiritual direction as accompaniment, as helping someone in their pilgrimage toward God, and as something that actually helps them in their formation in mission, and almost like disciples forming disciples, or disciples helping to teach, sometimes they say disciples discipling others, right? A lot of spiritual direction has to do with that. Deep listening has a very important part in our spiritual direction program, because we feel like that is the environment that needs to happen in spiritual direction. A deep listening to the Lord by both the director and the directee, and a deep listening of the directee by the director. So learning how to listen well, and learning how to listen to what might be going on inside of that person, and where what we say, the voice of the good shepherd and the voice of the thief. And also kind of those human emotions that might be happening, to understand just where the Lord might be present there. And the deep listening that also leads to questions, that allows the person to open their heart more, and allows the person to walk into their heart and encounter the Lord and listen better, or more clearly to what the Lord might be saying. Giving that person a real trustful, confiding, confidential relationship, where they can feel safe and where they can open their heart. All for them to be able to find the Lord and get in contact with Him more. So it's a very prayerful environment, the way that we teach our students and we train them as spiritual directors. It's not designed as therapy, but it's designed as walking with someone in their walk with the Lord, and to help them and encourage them, support them, give them resources so that they can follow the Lord more closely. Know Him, love Him, follow Him more closely, as St. Ignatius would tell us. So it's not therapy. It's not even catechesis or teaching, although there could be moments of teaching in spiritual direction. Really depends upon your background. Just because you're a spiritual director, you can't pontificate. Not necessarily, but it's not, the purpose of spiritual direction is not catechesis or teaching. That's really done in catechesis or in courses directed to teach you about the truths of the faith, of the Christian faith. So it's really about, offering listening, perspective with the person, not so much catechesis or teaching. And it's not really evangelization, even though evangelization is a very noble ministry, about proclaiming the gospel. Evangelization is the first proclamation, whereas spiritual direction is really for someone that has already had the gospel proclaimed to them and wants to deepen in their walk with the Lord and get to know Him better, and is willing to take up a spiritual life, of moments to be with the Lord, of prayer, in order to help them. Julia, thank you so much for your question. And thanks so much for raising your hand. I forgot to say this at the beginning. So if you do have any questions, please just put them in the Q&A box, and I will look at them. As soon as I finish explaining the program, I will look at them and I can answer them. The problem is I can't look at the Q&A box while I have this screen up. So that's why we have to do it this way. So Julie, if you can just put that into the Q&A box, your question, then I'll answer it. Thanks so much. And please, other people, as we're going along and questions might come to you. not gonna. So what can you expect in the spiritual direction program? Well, it's a 6-course program. All of the courses are online. It's what we call asynchronous, which means that you don't have to connect for classes and you do the work on your own time. It's not an online type of education where you're connecting for a class and getting the information. You actually are, when you register, you're given access to a platform, and that platform has your course on it. Each course consists of 8 weeks or 8 modules. You work through the material together with your cohort. You respect those weekly deadlines of assignments, and that's how you move through the information. The teachers, especially in the first 2 courses, do hold meetings. Those meetings are not obligatory. There is an assignment given, and you can complete the assignment. Everyone is given the same assignment, but there are 2 ways to complete it. You can complete it by writing your essay and then going to the live discussion group, or you can complete it by writing an essay and then listening to the recording. So that's what we mean by asynchronous. It's really can be done on your own time. It's minimum the amount of time that you have to get together. Even in the later courses, there is some triadic work where you get together with other students, but those that's just you organizing your schedule with 2 other people. So the majority of the things are you're able to do on your own time. There are 2 residencies in the course. That means that these are 2 moments, one a year. You do 3 courses a year. And those residencies occur here in Sterling, Virginia. They're 4-day. You arrive for a Wednesday evening and you're done by Sunday lunch. And those residencies are part of one residency happens at the end of the 3rd course, and the other residency happens at the beginning of the 5th course. There's also a requirement of 60 practicum hours. You do the practicum hours, you start doing them in the 5th and the 6th course. So you start in the 5th course and you have a total of 2 years from the time that you start your 3rd course to finish. So you've got a good amount of time, almost about 6 months to finish those practicum hours after you finish your courses. So those practicum hours are made up of 48 hours of seeing people in spiritual direction and 12 hours of supervision. Those 12 hours of supervision are actually given in your 5th and your 6th course, and we give them to you as assignments. Your instructor does that supervision. So it's not like you need to go find a supervisor. We do ask you to log those hours. We tell you how to do that, and it's part of your completion. Another aspect also in the spiritual direction in order to graduate is to also do an Ignatian spiritual exercise experience of at least 5 days. If you've done it within 2 years of coming into the program, that also counts. We want you to have an experience of the Ignatian spiritual exercises. We think it's an important one. We also think it will help you as a spiritual director. These are the 6 courses. This information is also on our website. And in fact, on the website, the course descriptions are given there, a short paragraph about what each of the courses contain. So I ask you to visit divinemercy.edu and look for the Spiritual Direction Certificate under the academic programs, and you will find the course descriptions there. You'll see by just looking at this list right here that the courses really are about spiritual theology, this growth of grace in a person and how that works. That's really the spine of the program. And then intertwined in that is some about human development and human relationships, as you see in that 2nd course. And then the next element that's important is the training of yourself in those skills that you'll need as a spiritual director. And that's what you see in that 300 or that third course or that 500, that fifth course, right? But the first course, that fourth course, that sixth course, you see, that's, this is where the whole spine of trying to understand how a human person relates to grace and how that grace works in their human nature and helps them to become more Christ-like, transforms us, right? Through that grace given to us that we so recently celebrated at Easter. And then the sixth course, along with giving you that supervision sessions, is also about different situations that you might encounter in spiritual direction, and helping you to kind of understand what that's like and how to listen for those different situations and what to do, how to refer those people to other people that could help them to understand, what's within your competency and what isn't. So the residencies we spoke about, this is a picture, a couple pictures taken from our residencies. As I said to you, that there are 2 4-day residencies on campus here in Sterling, Virginia. The university is very close to Dulles Airport, so it's very easy. In fact, we put you up in a hotel, and the hotel does a shuttle from the airport and back to the airport. So you don't even need a car. You could just take a plane and work that way. The university is about a 5-minute walk, really, not more than that, from the hotel. And so that's what students do. They walk back and forth. The residencies are moments to put in practice the skills and the knowledge that you're learning as a spiritual director and get coached by faculty members. So the way that we set up the residencies is that they usually start with about an hour and a half of teaching in the morning, and then you break up into small groups. Every small group has a faculty member, and you work through scenarios or situations, and you're asked to take different roles and to practice your skills. As I said before, the first residency is at the end of the third course and is an integral part of that course. And the second residency is at the beginning of the fifth course and is also an integral part of that course. You can't pass a course without passing a residency. They're put together. You need to be taking the residency and the course at the same time. So term-based, our courses aren't semester-based, they're term-based. So instead of being 16 weeks, they're 8 weeks. You only can take one course at a time. And usually it requires about 6 to 10 hours a week as far as your commitment between doing the readings, watching the videos, answering the different assignments. There's roughly a 6 to 10 week break between each term, and you can complete the certificate in 2 years. So it's a good rhythm. There are breaks. It allows you to kind of have a life and while you're doing this, as well as, sometimes those breaks are great times for people to gather some money together to continue paying for the certificate, or to, go back and read some of the things that they'd like to read, or maybe do the retreat or different things like that. So we haven't had students complain about those breaks, that's for sure. So this is how the terms work when we talk about breaks. This is how our academic calendar works. We've got a spring term, a summer term, and a fall term. So you see there the active terms. So our spring term begins in early January and ends in early March. Our summer term begins in late May. In fact, we have a summer term beginning this month on May 21st, and there are still some seats available for that term, so would be very happy to talk to anyone that's interested in that term, and it ends in mid-July. The fall term begins in late August and ends in mid-October. So those are the terms, and then on the other side, you see the column that talks about the breaks. So these are the times when you have breaks. Early March to late May. We don't have classes mid-July to late August, and we don't have classes from mid-October to ends in early January. Usually we start classes when pretty much everyone else starts classes, which is when if you have kids when they go back to school, right? Not necessarily college because they tend to go back a little bit later in January. So that's how the calendar works. This is the cost of the program. It is a pay-as-you-go program. So that means that as you register for each of the courses, you pay for it. You don't have to pay any of this upfront. It's just as you register. So it's $800 per course, and the residencies are $1,350. These prices will go up in the fall semester for the summer courses right now, summer term. These are the prices, but they will be going up in the fall. We try not to raise them very much, but we do usually need to raise them just because of the cost of things. The residency consists of, as you see there, it covers the lodging, the materials, most meals. Students are responsible for 3 of their dinners. And then if you still need to get supervision and you haven't finished your practicum at the end of the 6th course, we do ask you to enroll a term in your and get either supervision or provide your own supervisor. So that's what that $50 and $100 at the end is. So all in all, the certificate right now total cost is $7,600. And as I said, it is a pay-as-you-go program, so that's a cost that you'd be paying over the course of 2 years. That, I think, is what I wanted to tell you. Let me stop sharing my screen and get to the questions so that I can see them. And please, if there's any that you have, please put them there, because I always love your questions because I can't think of all the things you guys need to know. What time of the year do the 2 retreats typically take place? Okay, so you're talking about the residencies, I imagine. So those residencies occur, it really depends on when you start the course. You can start in May, you can start in the fall, you can start in the summer, you can start in the fall, you can start in January. So it really depends on when you start. It's always going to be your third term and your 5th term. Is it difficult to find people to complete the 48 hours of spiritual direction during the program? I don't think so. Really, truthfully, of the students now we have 220 graduates in the program, and I think I've only had maybe 2 or 3 that have had difficulties. And sometimes it's because they live in a kind of remote area or things like that. Usually, it's kind of a pretty organic process. I'll talk a little bit about how to apply for the program because I see that's one of the questions here. But it's pretty, from the beginning, you're talking to your spiritual director, you're talking to your, if you have one, you're talking to your parish priest, or your pastor of your church. They know that what you're doing, so word kind of spreads. So it's not usually difficult. We do kind of coach you through that so you can start finding those people, but we do ask you to find them. What are the prerequisites for admission to the program? Thanks for that question, Joe. So in order to enter to the program, you have to do an application. The application is online on our website. And it takes about 15 minutes to fill out. And then you will get a link for 4 essay questions that are short. We're only looking for about 5 or 6 sentences for each question. And so you fill those out, and then we give you a link to send to your faith leader, like the pastor of your church, the pastor, if you're Catholic, the pastor that's in charge of your church. If you're a Christian, your faith leader, your pastor, and for them to fill out because we want to hear from your local church about this. If they consider you someone that also would have this calling, how we really believe that local community, that faith community in which you are a part, should also be kind of feeling that you're having this nudge too. And those are the prerequisites, Joe. We don't require, it's a certificate, so it's not a degree program, so we don't require any degrees. We do, in the interviewing process and the application process, we do look for a certain knowledge of your own faith tradition. And in order to, you can't just be someone that's just converted to your faith, or even though that's beautiful, we want you to be part of your community and continue learning before you would do something like this. The tuition, Julia, for the program is what I explained, $800 for each course and $1,350 for the residencies. That slide that I had about the tuitions. Charles, is their religious group or order guiding the theology? So the university, Divine Mercy University, is a Catholic university. We actually the Newman Guide just started allowing graduate schools to apply for them. So we actually just got approved by the Newman Guide in December as a faithful Catholic university. We're under the Diocese of Arlington, very esteemed by the bishop here. And as any Catholic independent institute, if it's not associated to a diocese, it needs to be associated to a religious order. So the religious order that Divine Mercy University is associated to is the Legionaries of Christ. They hold positions on the board, and the president of the university and the chaplains will always be legionaries. So between that we're always looking to be a faithful Catholic university that follows the teachings of the church, and our fidelity to our local leaders, that kind of guides the theology, as well as having the legionaries there as the priests on campus. Can this be a career? Do we get paid as a spiritual director, or is this free work at churches? It's really not a career, it's a ministry. Sometimes some people, lay people, or even religious that need money in order to be able to do the ministry will charge something. But yeah, it's not a career. You really can't make a career out of this. It's really a ministry. But sometimes people do donate to people that give spiritual direction, or you can ask for a stipend or pay. No. Are Canadians welcome to take the program? Of course. We do have Canadians in the program. Is spiritual direction growing in demand? Yes, definitely. Since the 90s, spiritual direction has been growing. A lot at least within the Catholic Church, could be traced back to Vatican II, where they really made it clear that all people are called to holiness, and it's not just that religious or priests or have that ability to be holy, but that all people are called to that. And Pope Benedict has a beautiful quote that he said in 2011, saying, every Christian that wants to follow Jesus more closely should have a spiritual director. So, and yes, since COVID, spiritual direction has been opened up to do more virtually. So, I am a spiritual director. I would say I probably see half of my people in person and half of them virtually. Do people come to lay people for spiritual direction? Yes, definitely. I mean, the way that the church understands it, there's a beautiful number in the Catechism of the Catholic Church saying that, spiritual directors are servants of prayer, and they're men and women that are gifted with the gift of discernment and listening. So, the Catholic Church has always understood that there can be lay spiritual directors. In fact, John Paul II's first spiritual director was a layman, and he introduced him to mystical prayer. So, and there's just great examples, especially the early fathers and desert fathers and mothers. And there's a lot of lay good spiritual directors, even though The tradition of spiritual direction was developed more in the monastic tradition. That's why we associated with priests and nuns, but it definitely has always existed since the time of Jesus and the apostles were spiritual directors and the disciples and right. Thanks, Joe. Glad that was a great answer for you. Are there grant scholarships or sponsorships? Well, it is a ministry. So it's not like we have a lot of money. We pretty much, the money that we make, we've invested into the program. As any college, we don't make money for money's sake. So we don't really. There are, if you look on the DMU website, there's under the financial aid, there's a tab that says tuition partners. So there are organizations and dioceses that have made partnerships with us. And if you belong to any of those, like Focus or St. Paul's Outreach or, certain dioceses, the military diocese, you get a 10% discount on the courses. Elizabeth, I'm interested in the certificate. I'm enrolled with the 2-year college. I find this important. Good, thank you. Any scholarships available to, okay, so Doug, I hope that answered your question. Mary, about the 5-day diction exercise, is that offered at DMU or where can it be done? Yeah, no, we don't offer it. It doesn't necessarily have to be done in person. You should be able to find things by you. There is a place here in DC, Our Lady of Bethesda Retreat Center, that offers this. So that's someplace that we can recommend to you. Usually I just help people if they need help finding it. I try to connect them to different possibilities. There's also a possibility to do what's called the spiritual exercises in daily life, which is a little bit longer retreat, but allows you to do it at your home. It's sometimes called the 19th annotation. I also could direct you in the direction of that if you're interested in that. Do priests need a pastor's recommendation too? What we ask from priests or religious brothers and sisters is that they get a recommendation from the person that oversees them, like a priest, that they would get a recommendation from the person that oversees their ministry in the diocese. If you're a pastor, sometimes it's someone that might be auxiliary bishop, it might be another priest that has been asked to take that charge by your bishop. So it's a little bit different if you're a priest or religious. We always ask that to be kind of from your superior or the person that oversees your ministry. Hope that helps you Sunday. Would offering spiritual direction be a good complement to an existing practice in biblical counseling and Christian coaching? I would think so, and we definitely have students that do both things. Coaching is different because it has a very problem solution aspect to it, where spiritual direction is a very contemplative, deep listening atmosphere. Charles, would the diocese where one wants to practice need to approve? So it's different in every diocese, Charles. That's why from the beginning, we want you talking to your parish priest if you are a Catholic, because our certificate gives you a certificate. It's called a certificate of completion. It shows that you've been trained as a spiritual director. But our certificate is not about approving you to be a spiritual director for your local community. That really needs to be done by the people that are the leaders there. So some dioceses get involved, like in South Carolina, Charleston, South Carolina, they have an office of spiritual directors. Some dioceses get involved in vetting spiritual directors. Some dioceses do not, and the parish priest just kind of vets them. So it really kind of depends on where you are. I hope that answers that. Do you need a spiritual director during the program? So that's an interesting question. Thanks so much for asking that. To get into the program, you do not need a spiritual director, but we ask you to have one by the time that you finish the first course, and to be in spiritual direction. We really believe that in order to guide others, you need to be guided yourself. To be discipled, you need to be discipled yourself. So that's something that we teach throughout the whole program. So we ask you, you can get into the program, but you need to have one by the end of the first course. The teachers in the first course usually can help you. They have resources. We've worked with them so that they have resources to give you. They can tell you about websites, or maybe they're in your area and they could tell you about people that they know. It just kind of really depends on where you are. Great questions. Thanks so much for all this. Let me see here if there's any ones. Elizabeth said mom. Oh, okay, so sorry, let me go by. Okay, so the scholarships and financial aid, I told you. Does you need, okay, thanks. How many graduates have completed the program? The program was launched in January of 2019, and as of today, there are 220. Julia, what platform is spiritual direction offered on? Oh, like giving spiritual direction or the courses? The courses are offered on a platform that's called Canvas. That's a learning management system that we use to offer you the courses. Spiritual direction, if you give it online, it really depends on the platform that you choose to use. Okay, let's see if I have answered all of your questions. This is why I love having you all ask questions, because I don't know if I can remember all these things that you'd be asking, and just to have these questions. And also, they're the particular interests you all have. Donald, so I answer how many graduates there are, 220. How old is the program? January 2019. The Legion of Christ has been ever since the university was founded in 1999. That's how it was founded by a group of lay Catholic and Christian psychologists and counselors, and they asked the legionaries, they approached the legionaries to be, because they needed to be sponsored as a Catholic institution. You'd either be sponsored, be a diocesan college or university, or be under the sponsorship of a congregation. So that's how long that's been. I'm not sure how to ask. I'm thinking of becoming a religious teacher. Do you think it's necessary, or would I need to be looking to something completely different? Yeah, so I mean, we do have theology teachers, especially high school theology teachers, that start studying this because they want to start giving spiritual direction, not to their students. This program is not to give spiritual direction to minors, but because they want to start working with college age students, or to kind of branch out and do a little bit more with their theology. But I think if you're looking to be a religious teacher, probably it's better to start studying maybe education and religious education. If you're a man, should you seek a man spiritual director, or does gender of the director matter? What matters is your ability to trust the director and build a relationship of trust, and that person gives you the opportunity to, the way that they create the sessions allows you to be able to, get in contact with the Lord. So, and it kind of depends on seasons of life. It's not like you find one spiritual director and stay with them for your whole life. It really depends on what you're needing, and that the type of person. It really has to do with the type of person, and even their knowledge and the way that they are. It is important that you feel like you're in a safe place with them and you can trust them, and that there's not a lot of distractions, that you can really just focus on your relationship with the Lord. Hope that answers that. Well, that looks like it's all the questions. Julia, thanks so much. Joe, repeat when the residencies are. So Joe, the residencies really depends. They're always in the end of the third course and the beginning of the fifth course. So it really depends when you start the program, when they'll actually be. We plan the residencies at least a year out, so we can definitely give you those dates, but it really depends on when you start. No. Doug, great question. Does the tuition include books? So good, thank you. Most of the books and materials are online and you don't have to buy them. They're there. We've already paid for them and they're on the online platform and we have permission to be using them and for you to be using them. We do ask you when you enter in the program to buy 4 books and they probably cost maybe at the most $100. And we do ask for the fourth course for you to buy He Leadeth Me. So altogether, I think the books are like $100, really not more than that. Thanks, Doug. I always forget to talk about that. Thank you. We're coming up to 45 minutes. Just want to make sure that I've answered all the questions. I do want to let you know that we still have some seats open for the May 21st. And if you're like, gosh, I want to start, but I don't know if I can do it in that amount of time, don't worry, I'll work with you and help you through the process. That's part of what I do. It's not as hard. And if you're feeling that this is the time for you, summer sometimes is a good time to get in something like this. As I said, we do have some more seats still open. And if you are wanting to apply to the program, just because you came to the webinar, I will give you a code that you use so as to waive the application fee. The application fee is usually $25. But if you get in touch with me and ask me for that code, I'm putting my email there in the chat. It's also on the website. I can give you the code so as to waive your application fee. Just to make it a little bit easier for you. And as kind of a little thank you for coming to this webinar. So I hope you've seen my email there. It is on the website too, and pretty much on any of the emails that go out that have to do with the program. I would love to talk to you. If you are interested, I know that sometimes you have questions that you just need to get or things that you want to talk about more personally. So please reach out to me. I would love to talk to you. I'm trying to remember my work phone number. If you need that, it's 703. I spend my days telling people this, but I don't have it memorized. Let me just pull it up here. 703-348. 83. So there it is also in the chat. Well, I hope this has been informative to you. Len, did you have a question that you wanted to ask? I see you've got your hand raised. You could just put it in that Q&A box. That would be great. Thank you so much. Phone number. Are you not seeing it, Don? Oh gosh, you don't see the number or the email. That's so strange. It's in the chat, Len, where you just put that. It's up above there. Here it is again. It's also on the website. If you go to divinemercy.edu and look up Spiritual Direction Certificate, you will find it. It's in the chat, like where you guys put where you chatted to put your names. I can tell you again. So my email is mbrackett, BRACKETT @divinemercy.edu. And my phone number is 703-385-8385. Got it? Thank you all. God bless you. Take care.